Mr. Darden. Good morning, Counsel.
Good morning, Your Honor.
All right, we have the items of evidence present from the LAPD, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
With the exception of 3 control bindles on item 7, 12, and 49, which I request counsel.
All right, and Mr. Neufeld, you wanted to inspect those items, and Mr. Goldberg, you wanted that done on the record, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's
Well,
proceed.
he hasn't inspected the items, but he wants to open them. Some of them are sealed.
How many of these items do you need to see, to open to see?
I just wanted to open the corner envelopes for there's the 16 or so items.
How many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 23 items.
Haven't you already been given the opportunity to do this
No, Your Honor.
previously?
Oh, no, that's not the point here. The point is, before I actually display them to the witness, I just want an opportunity to make sure these are the same ones that I've seen in the past. That can take literally 7 or 8 minutes to do. I was here at 8:30 for that purpose, as you know, Your Honor. I can do it during a very brief recess between the end of their recross, the end of their redirect and my cross. I just need those 7 minutes, so before I actually show them to the witness, I've had an opportunity to look at them myself to make sure they're the same.
All right, Mr. Goldberg, would you approach, please? Let me give you my scissors. You got 10 minutes.
Thank you very much.
We'll do it on the record. Do you need gloves for these things? All right.
She does have those.
Mr. Goldberg?
We were just discussing that we don't have any seals to reseal the items, which we'd like to do after they're reopened, because they are analyzed evidence. Ms. Mazzola just brought that to my attention.
All right, Ms. Robertson, do you have evidence seals so we can reseal each one of these items after they've been opened? All right, would you supervise that process then over there, please? All right, Mr. Goldberg, Mr. Darden, can I ask you to clear a few items off your counsel table there, put them over here on the bar by the jury rail so I can observe what's going on as well, and let's do this as expeditiously as we can. All right, let's get started.
Try to take them out to the best of your ability in the numerical order.
All right, Ms. Mazzola has removed the contents of a 9x12 manila envelope. There appear to be numerous coin envelopes. All right, which one do you have there, Ms. Mazzola?
It is item 8.
All right, item 8, there appear to be 2 coin envelopes. They appear to be what, stapled together? All right, you've removed 2 bindles. Harmon, you're going to have to stand out of the well, please. Mrs. Robertson, let me ask you to reseal these items. Again, 2 coin envelopes that appear to be stapled together.
Say about 40 minutes of redirect. I can start on the recourse before I get to the decision if you want to do this during the recess, if you prefer.
Well, let's do it now. No, I don't. Okay. All right, which item is this? Still 11. All right, 2 bindles.
They are in a sealed condition, the bindles.
All right.
Thank you.
Also appears to be 2 coin envelopes stapled together. Excuse me, counsel. That's 3 times now. Deputy Jacks. Appears to be 1 bindle.
And that spindle just has, does that have a 12 on it? Is that a 12? What is that? Yeah, 12. But it doesn't have a 12C.
Appears to be a single coin envelope. appears to contain 2 paper bindles.
Two paper bindles.
Noted. All right, a single coin envelope. Noted. Appear to be 2 coin envelopes stapled together. All right. 2 paper bindles. All right, 46. Deputy Magnera, would you make preparations to resume today at 1 o'clock instead of 1:30? All right, item 46. Would you describe that, Ms. Mazzola?
Appears to be a menu from a Thai Chinese restaurant.
Folded.
Item 14.
All right, single coin envelope.
Two bindles again.
Noted. Single coin envelope.
Item 47.
Appears to be 3 coin envelopes stapled together.
And also for the record, so far, all of the coin envelopes from which the bindles came were sealed.
Yes. And Ms. Mazzola, what is that?
This is a single bindle that appears to be sealed up with a plastic seal.
Does that say C, or is that a control bindle, or just a number?
All right, the second sealed coin envelope. All right, a single bindle out of the second coin envelope. All right, Ms. Mazzola,
Item 48.
3 coin envelopes. Deputy Jacks, there's a lot of talking in the audience. I know 3 journalists and 1 book author that are about to go out. Ms. Hazlett, would you come here for a moment? All right, that was a single paper bindle.
This also appears to be sealed with tape, and it appears to be the control bindle.
Item 41.
Single coin envelope. I'm sorry?
I want to check page size from, the page size from yesterday. I'll go back over.
All right, 2 paper bindles.
Item number 1.
All right, 2 coin envelopes stapled together, 1 sealed.
And 2 bindles
2 paper bindles.
appear to be sealed.
Item 4.
2 coin envelopes stapled together, 1 sealed. All right, 2 paper bindles.
And 2 bindles.
Item 5.
Appear to be 2 coin envelopes stapled together. One is sealed. Appear to be 2 paper bindles. Mr. Fairtlow, is there a reason you can't do that during a recess?
Item number 6.
2 coin envelopes stapled together, one appears to be sealed.
Actually,
Both are sealed. Excuse me, Mr. Neufeld, could you step 2 steps to the left? Thank you. Single paper bindle. All right, second coin envelope. Appears to be 1 paper bindle. Next item.
Next item is 49.
2 coin envelopes stapled together. 1 sealed. One bindle.
Item 52. 3 bindles, 2 sealed.
Was the last item 2
Last item was 49.
49, but there was 2 envelopes,
Two
correct?
envelopes,
Right.
1 sealed.
All right. All right, which number is this?
This is item 52. There are 3 envelopes. 2 of
All right.
them are sealed.
Awfully long 7 minutes.
The observation time, if you read that, it would be less than 10 minutes.
One bindle
Mrs. Robertson, do you have your stapler there? Ms. Mazzola?
One of the seal envelopes is empty. One paper bindle and 4 microfiche tubes.
Or on?
This just says 7, it doesn't say 7C.
Item 51,
All right, if you'll, Mrs. Robertson, if you'll reseal all those items, please. All right, Mr. Neufeld, have you had the opportunity to observe those items?
Certainly have. Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to ask the court that since the prosecution chose not to use this evidence as part of its direct case with this witness, and I did ask specifically to use it for my cross, and I had to delay the end of my cross until they were produced, that the people not be allowed to use this or these items, refer to them on their redirect, since it's not something I went into on cross yet, and I would have been entitled to show them to the witness for the first time on my cross.
Well, Mr. Goldberg indicated to me that he only had 20 more minutes. There's been no indication that he intends on using any of these items, so since that's a decision I don't have to make,
Your Honor, we had an issue as to items number 15 and 16, which the court asked that we bring
Yes.
here this morning and now have. I don't know whether the court wants to see.
have you displayed those to Mr.
Yes.
Neufeld?
This is item number 15.
All right, standard American Airlines ticket jacket with appears to be a ticket sticking out of it, or at least the stub.
And item number 16, which appears to be a baggage claim tag.
Is that one of those double stick, fold over, barcoded?
Right.
All right, noted. All right, Deputy Magnera, I'm sorry, Madam Court Reporter, how do you want to split the morning? I'm tempted to just go straight through. Okay. All right, let's have the jurors. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Record to reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Ladies and gentlemen, if you recall, yesterday I indicated to you that we had a delay because of some of the items, physical items of evidence were not immediately available to us. And the delay this morning was that those items were delivered to the court, and I wanted to examine each piece of that evidence before it was presented to you, so we've had to go through. How many were there? 15 or 16 pieces of evidence? Yeah. In any event, that's what we've been doing. We've been here since 8:30 this morning for that purpose, just to let you know what the delay was. All right. Good morning again, Ms. Mazzola.
Good morning.
You're reminded you were again under oath, and Mr. Goldberg, you may continue with your redirect examination.
Now, I was asking you yesterday about this white item, the blanket that you saw in the vicinity or on Mr. Goldman at some point. What was that blanket again?
It was just a white blanket or sheet. I wasn't sure which one.
And was that something that came from the coroner's office?
Objection, she knows.
Rephrase the question.
Do you know if that came from the coroner's office?
At the time, I did not.
All right, maybe we can see People's 99 for identification.
You should cut the E for this one.
Cut.
Okay, now, if you can look at the background of this photograph and take a look at the white blanket or white sheet that appears to have some writing on it. Is that what you saw?
I saw him on a white blanket or sheet.
Okay. And when you looked at this, did you look at this photograph prior to testifying today, the actual photograph as opposed to an image of it?
Yes.
And did you look at other crime scene photographs depicting the same scene or similar scene?
I had seen crime scene photographs previous, yes.
And what was the writing? What is the writing that appears on the right-hand side of this blanket that's somewhat blurry?
Yeah. On this image, it's hard to tell, but on the photographs, it appears to be from the LA coroner.
Right. And is this consistent with what you saw when you were referring to a white blanket?
Yes.
Now, thank you. Was there another white blanket that was at the crime scene that was still there after the bodies had been removed when you were engaged in the evidence collection process?
Yes, there was.
And where was that white blanket?
It was on the walkway near the first steps.
Now, from your own independent recollection, based upon what you saw when you were at the scene, did you ever see that blanket on anyone?
From what I can recall, I did not see that particular blanket on anybody.
Either the body of Nicole Simpson or Ronald Goldman?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay, does that mean that it wasn't ever on Nicole Simpson, or just that you did not see that?
That I did not see that.
Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination about your conversations with me, and you said that at one point you had been in the district attorney's office for perhaps 5 hours or so.
Correct.
Wasn't testimony, it wasn't my occasion.
Oral.
Now, on the occasion or occasions when that happened, was that while you were waiting to testify?
Not, well, I believe on maybe one occasion it was while I was waiting.
And were people talking to you the whole time about this case, or what were you doing?
For the most part, I was left alone.
And did the defense attorneys ever attempt, to your knowledge, to contact you and say, we'd like to sit down with you and go over what we're going to question you about or talk about the case?
Objections to form.
Sustain. Rephrase the question.
Have the defense attorneys ever contacted you and asked you prior to today to discuss any part of the case with them?
No.
Okay. Today, did you have a little bit of a conversation with Mr. Neufeld about certain items of evidence?
Yes.
And other than that, is that the only time that you had an off-the-record conversation that you can recall with one of the defense lawyers
That I can
relating to the case?
that I can recall, I believe it was, yes.
Did you consider your conversation with Mr. Neufeld to be witness preparation?
Objections to what she considered.
Overruled.
No.
Was he asking you questions about Can you just give us a generic or general description of what the conversation was about?
He was just asking about certain items of evidence, if I would unseal them,
He was asking what?
that if I would open them for him to see.
Was he asking any questions about those items of evidence, or what you put on them, or what they were, and so on?
Not really.
Your Honor, I wanted to ask some questions about 15 and 16 pursuant to our conversation.
All right, I think our agreed-upon parameter is physical description, dimension.
Without telling us what these
Hold on.
items...
Hold on. Mr. Neufeld,
Brief sidebar, I think the sounds very
do you want to talk with Mr. Cochran first?
Yes.
With the court order. Thank you. All right, thank you, counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, if you recall, well, with regard to evidence collection items number 15 and 16, the parties, both sides, have withdrawn their objection to those items, so we will proceed with those items. All right, Mr. Goldberg.
Okay, Your Honor, then I'll mark as my next exhibit in order as People's 203,
203.
item number 15, and as 204, item number 16. I'm not going to write on these because they already have markings on them.
All right.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Mazzola, showing you item number 15 and item number 16. Do you recognize those?
Yes,
And what are those?
they are the two items which were collected at Rockingham on the afternoon of June 13th.
Okay. And when was the packaging that they're now contained in, when were they placed in those packaging materials?
That happened June 14th back at the laboratory.
Can you remove the item from People's 203 for identification? That's number 15, and tell us what you're doing for the record.
I am opening the coin envelope and removing, appears to be airline tickets.
All right. Maybe you can just hold that up so the jurors can see what you have. Now, when you were actually at the location, did you put that in any packaging material other than the plastic bag itself?
No.
Now, can you remove item number 16 from its coin envelope and describe what you're doing for the record?
Okay. I am removing item 16 from the envelope. It appears to be a baggage claim ticket from an airline.
And was that placed in any other packaging material on the 13th when you were at Rockingham, other than the plastic bag itself?
No.
Thank you. Can you just hold up item number 15 one more time after you put 16 away? Maybe I could just take a look at 163H for identification, the gray analyzed evidence envelope. Can you put that, we'll just keep that out for a second.
You want the item itself kept out?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I'd like to give you 163H. Maybe you can just hold the two of those up so we can get a relative size comparison. And neither that item that you're holding now nor item number 16 were placed in any other packaging material other than the plastic bag while you were at the Rockingham location.
Correct.
Now, when you were carrying the plastic bag out of the location, did it feel to you like it weighed anything more than what you would expect with just item 15 and 16 and the little cards, collection cards?
It felt like it was a little heavier than it should be, but I didn't give it much thought.
Okay. Thank you. You can replace that item. could you just hold up the envelope itself so that we can, no, the envelope, the coin envelope. Is that the type of coin envelope or one of the kinds of coin envelopes that you do have in your crime scene boxes?
Yes,
And where were those coin envelopes at the time that you and Mr. Fung recovered item 15 and 16?
they were in the back of the truck,
Locked.
locked.
Thank you. Now, turning to the Bronco search and collection of evidence, you said that on the pedals that you used the same swab for the purposes of the phenolphthalein test.
Correct.
Why was that done?
Mr. Fung just wanted to see if the pedals had been manipulated, as if someone had driven the Bronco,
As opposed to what?
as opposed to just getting in the Bronco and then getting right back out.
So you wanted to see whether there was any evidence of any blood on any one of the 3 pedals.
Correct.
And when he directed you to do this test, did you have any fear or concern on your part that if you suggested to him that 3 different swabs should be used, that he was going to say to you, I can't believe that you would question my judgment, I think you should be fired,
No,
or anything along those lines?
no.
And when you were doing this phenolphthalein test, was it your intent to collect anything or try to collect anything from the pedals?
No, he said we were just,
Sustained.
You could just tell us what your intent was.
the intent was to see if the pedals had been manipulated. That was it.
And is it your practice not to collect every single last stain that you see in a car that contains many stains, such as the Bronco?
A representative sample of what is in the car would be taken.
And who was making the judgment call as to which samples to take and not to take from the Bronco?
That was Mr. Fung.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention to People's 195A for identification. This photograph is a little bit washed out. Have you had an opportunity?
Overruled.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the actual photograph before?
Yes,
And was this a photograph that was taken on the 14th when you and Mr. Fung were doing the evidence collection at the Bronco?
yes, it was.
Now, do you have an independent recollection of seeing any of the stains that appear in the running board area of the driver's side door?
Not on the running board itself, no.
Let's take a look at 197 for identification. Now, with respect to the little stains that are contained in this photograph,
Objection, Your Honor, it's little stains.
Sustained.
well,
Counsel, objection. then I'll ask for the grounds, both sides.
Do you see some stains that are contained in this photograph?
I see cards where there would be stains.
No, I'm talking about the area of the running board, the driver's area.
Objection as to the characterization, assumes facts, not evidence.
Rephrase the question.
Talking about the white metallic area that's in the forefront of this photograph.
There appears to be a dark spot on it.
Now, do you recall seeing that on the 14th?
No, I don't recall if I saw that or not.
And do you recall seeing any other spots in that area on the 14th?
No.
Now, when you say you don't recall, does that mean that they weren't there?
Objection, Your Honor.
Rephrase the question.
When you say you don't recall, does that mean that you looked in that area, examined it, and that they weren't there?
It means I don't recall if I saw stains there or not.
And prior to looking at the crime scene photographs, did you have any recollection as to the rear gate at Bundy being there?
No.
But does that mean that it wasn't there?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, it's the point.
Sustain. Rephrase the question.
Does that mean that you looked and you examined the area and that you saw that there was no rear gate at Bundy?
I did not remember seeing a rear gate at Bundy.
But do you now know that there was in fact one there?
I know now that there was a gate, yes.
And prior to seeing the videotape of yourself collecting the glove at the Bundy location,
I think
did
we've
you,
asked this question already.
not in this context?
We asked the same question, though, yesterday afternoon in a similar kind of context.
Well, you testified yesterday that you didn't have an independent recollection prior to seeing the videotape of collecting the glove at Bundy. Does that mean that you didn't collect it or you remember not collecting it?
Objection.
Counsel, we've already been through, you've already asked that question.
Okay. Now, who was doing most of the work in terms of trying to identify stains on the Bronco prior to the actual physical collection of the stains?
Mr. Fung.
What were you doing?
I was passing him the photo ID cards, doing the sketch, helping with measurements, passing him supplies as he needed them.
Okay. Now, Ms. Mazzola, with respect to the stains that are in this People's Exhibit 197 for identification, did you ever consider at all testifying that you did see them on the 14th?
Objection.
Ground. Overruled.
If I didn't remember seeing them, then that's how I would testify. I didn't remember seeing them.
Okay. And you never thought of saying, yeah, I do remember seeing them to help the prosecution's case, did you?
No.
Now, I'd like to ask you some questions about the collection video, the blood collection video that was played. I think that's Defense 1117 for identification. And I'd just like to play it all the way through, and then I'll ask you some questions about what we saw. pouring some items out into the cap. What are you doing?
I am putting some of these swatches into the cap so I could pick them up with the tweezers.
And now you are doing what?
Adding a drop of distilled water to the swatch and shaking it out.
And now you've placed the swatch down, and for what purpose is that?
To take a control.
And this is right by the card that says number 5.
Correct.
And you just put it into a object. What did you put the control swatch in?
It's placed in a small plastic bag.
And that had some writing on it?
Correct.
What was the writing?
The item number and C for control.
So that's all you have to put on there is the item number and C for control.
Objection, meeting.
Sustained. Fred,
Is that all you have to put on there? Just the item number and the C for control?
Yes.
Now what did you just do?
Clean the tweezers again.
And now you are placing the swatch down on the stain.
Correct.
Now, when you were handling the swatch with the tweezers, what portion of the tweezers comes into contact with the swatch?
The extreme pointed end.
Are those tweezers, is there anything special about them that distinguishes them from ordinary tweezers?
Well, they're extremely sharper, and they have a longer area where you would handle the items that you need to.
Are they serrated at all so as to be able to grab things? Or are they just smooth?
We have some that are serrated, some that are smooth.
But these particular ones that you use for this task are the smooth ones?
Those are smooth.
And now what are you doing?
Placing the swatch with the item in a separate plastic bag.
What does that plastic bag have on it?
The item number.
But it doesn't have a C.
No.
And why is that? Why do you put a C on one and just the item number on the other? For what purpose?
All I do to designate the control. That's the only reason.
Couldn't you designate it even if you didn't write that on it?
For the most part, you can tell if a swatch has blood on it or not, but I just put a C.
Makes it easier.
Yes.
Do you write your initials anywhere on those plastic envelopes?
No.
Now, when you got up, you touched the ground. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Does that sometimes happen at a crime scene where you will touch the ground for whatever the reason to balance yourself?
Touch the ground or something to maintain your balance.
Does touching the ground have any impact in terms of the evidence collection?
Objection, she's unqualified.
Overruled.
Not really, no.
Now, what are you filling out now?
It could be another envelope for the next item.
Objection, speculation.
Oh,
When you looked at this videotape, does it look like you have more than one item in your hand? Yeah, okay. Right now.
Yes,
What items do you have in your hand?
a plastic bag and a coin envelope.
And what do you write on the plastic bag?
The item number,
What do you write on the coin envelope?
the item number,
And in this case, that would have been 6.
correct.
And what are you doing now?
Cleaning the tweezers again.
Now, between the time that you cleaned your tweezers and the time that you picked up this next swatch, did you ever touch the tip end of the tweezers that comes in contact with the swatch?
No,
Is that the way that you do it at a real crime scene, too?
yes,
And now what are you collecting?
the next control.
And you just put the swatch, the control swatch where?
In a plastic bag.
And is that designated in some way, again, to separate it from the stained swatch?
It has the item number and a C on it.
Now you're writing on another plastic bag.
Correct.
You just wrote the item number and is that it?
For that one, it would be just the item number.
Okay, and again, you dropped a swatch in this video. Did you try to recover that swatch or did you just leave it on the ground?
Just leave it on the ground.
Now you're having a little bit of difficulty getting this off the tweezers.
Correct.
But when you look closely, did you ever touch the swatch with your gloved hand?
No,
Or did you ever touch the area of the tweezers that comes into contact with the swatch?
no,
Is that consistent with your practice at a real crime scene?
yes,
Now this swatch seems to be soaking up a little easier than the other one, is that correct?
it appears to be yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, I want to ask you a few more questions about the videotape. First of all, in this videotape, did your gloved hands ever come into contact with a swatch?
No,
And when I say that, I mean a swatch that was used for either a control or for collecting a stain.
no,
And towards the beginning portion of the videotape, do you recall a segment where your pinky was somewhat extended, almost as if you were holding a china cup?
I recall it was extended, yes.
Now, what were you doing with your pinky in that particular segment? You were also asked about it on cross-examination.
Just helping to turn over the lid of the cap.
And when you reviewed the video, did you review the videotape again after your testimony?
Yes,
Could you actually see the cap being flipped before it was put on, back on top of the pill box?
yes,
And is that also your practice at a crime scene, that in terms of the swatches that you're going to use for controls or stains, that you do not touch them with your gloved hand?
they are not touched with our hands, no.
When you watched this videotape, was there ever a time when you touched with your gloved hands the portion of the tweezers that you would use to collect either a control or a swatch after they were cleaned, but before the swatch was collected?
No,
And is that also consistent with the practice that you use at a crime scene?
yes.
Now, on stain number 5, the demonstration stain, do you know from viewing this videotape for sure whether or not the moisture from the control swatch did eventually migrate over to the stain?
From the videotape, it looked like it was coming close, yes.
It could have.
It could have, yes.
Now, does that present a problem when you are collecting evidence?
Not really, no.
Why not?
Objection, no foundation.
Sustained.
Okay. Well, counsel gave you a hypothetical where he related to you a set of facts under which the swatch came into contact with your hand and then was placed as the substrate control down on the cement, and then the water migrated over to the stain itself. You recall a hypothetical along those lines?
Yes,
Under that hypothetical situation, is there any danger of contaminating the item being collected, the stain?
There's still no foundation for this witness.
very little, if any.
And if this control swatch were in fact contaminated, could that be tested for by testing the control swatch?
Objection beyond the scope of her expertise.
Foundation, sustained.
Sorry.
Well, have you been taught what the control swatch is for?
We have been told what it could be used for, yes.
And when it gets back to the laboratory, what do the people in serology use those control swatches for?
Objection.
Rephrase the question.
Do you know what the people in serology use those for?
I know that they are used to see if anything in the background would interfere with the tests they were going to run, and they can also be tested for contamination, DNA, whatever.
Okay. And if the control swatch was in fact tested and it was determined that it did not contain biological material, would that indicate that you did not contaminate the control swatch and hence the stain?
Objection, that's all.
Overruled.
Yes,
Now, with respect to swatches that are dropped, if you drop one of the swatches and you just leave it on the ground, can that somehow affect or contaminate the stain that you're collecting?
if it is just left on the ground,
Right.
no, because it wouldn't be used.
Is there any significance to that at all that you're aware of based upon your training and your experience?
No,
And when you were testifying on direct examination, do you recall being asked a couple questions about different things that could conceivably happen while you're collecting a stain?
I think so, yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to read from page 23, 700.
What volume is this? What volume, counsel?
Excuse me, Your Honor?
What volume is this?
This is volume 130. I'm going to start on line, well, actually, I'd like to start on page 23, 699, on line 27. Through line 6.
Mr. Neufeld? Do you have the page? Correct.
I would object to rereading direct examination. It's beyond the scope of redirect examination.
No, it was, he got into this on cross.
It's a prior consistent statement. It's hearsay. There's no inconsistency.
No, but it's not
Let
being...
me see counsel at sidebar.
Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Proceed.
On direct examination, were you trying to in any way conceal or minimize different problems that can happen when you're collecting a stain?
No,
And is one of the things that could conceivably happen dropping tweezers?
it can happen, yes.
Okay. And did you admit that on direct examination?
It's hearsay.
Right. Did you make any effort to conceal that during direct examination, that could be a problem?
Overruled.
No,
All right. And do you know for a fact whether or not you did drop any tweezers at the crime scene at Bundy or at Rockingham?
I do not believe I did.
But if that problem does occur, how do you handle it?
Clean the tweezers.
So this is a potential mistake that could occur while you're collecting evidence, is that correct?
It's not really a mistake, it can happen.
Okay. But it couldn't have any impact on the evidence collection.
No,
Now, getting back to the control swatches, I wanted to show you the evidence collection board. I think it was 170. 177. Excuse me, it's 167.
Mr. Goldberg.
cell number 8 on this board, Ms. Mazzola. You may have to step down in order to see this. On cell 8, do you see that there are the two little white items that are sort of in the area that's framed by your hands and your body?
Yes.
One of them seems to be closer to your right knee, and the other one appears to be a little closer to the edge of the coin envelope, but they're both on the cement.
Correct.
What are those white items?
They appear to be swatches.
And if someone had asked you, had looked at this photograph and said, what are those items and how did they get there? Would have you told them that they fell out while you were taking them out of the pull bar?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
What would have you
Thank you.
told them?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
All right, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm finished with the board. I'll take it. Now, let me ask you about another issue relating to the collection of biological evidence. To your recollection, has there ever been an instance where you had the tweezers in your hand with a bloody swatch and dropped the bloody swatch?
That hasn't happened to me, no.
And if that did happen, how would you handle that situation?
Well, if there was enough of the stain left, you just take another swatch.
Okay, but what if you wanted to save that swatch, the one that you dropped?
Then you could package it in a separate plastic bag, separate coin envelope, along with another control of the area where it fell, and make a note on there what happened.
And why would you take another control?
Well, to get a sample of the area where the swatch fell.
So what would you do, to give you another hypothetical, if you had a situation where for some reason you dropped a bloody swatch and instinctively you caught it in a gloved hand? How would you handle that situation?
Same way, except you just include the glove as the substrate.
So you could include the glove as a substrate control?
Yes.
So there are ways to deal with problems, even such as dropping a bloody swatch?
Yes.
No. How would you package the glove if you saved that as your substrate control?
That would be packaged in a separate plastic bag, separate coin envelope, just to keep them separate.
Or could you conceivably take a control swatch from the area of the glove nearby where the stain fell?
You could, either way.
Now, with respect to your evidence collection of the blood stains at Bundy and Rockingham, are there any mistakes that you can think of that you could have made that could have caused the blood at that location to somehow change into the defendant's blood?
Objection, Your Honor. No foundation.
Sustained.
Are there any mistakes that you can think of that you could have made that could have caused those stains to become contaminated in such a way that they had the same genetic markers as the defendant's blood?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
Are you aware of any mistakes that you made or could have made to contaminate those stains?
No.
Now, once you get back to the laboratory with these stains on the evening of the 13th, did you play some role in the drying process of those stains?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the 14th, to your recollection, did you play any role in the packaging of the dried stains?
It's actually beyond the scope of cross-examination to date.
Overruled.
No.
I may have.
Okay. And was there something else that you were working on involving a case that was separate from this at or around that time?
Yes.
Did that involve any biological evidence?
No.
Now, when the items are packaged during the drying, after they're dry, into bindles, what information is placed on the bindles?
The item number and C for control on the bindle containing the control swatch.
So is that similar to the same type of information that was placed on the plastic bags at the scene?
Yes.
Do you have to distinguish necessarily between the control and the stain swatch?
It just makes it easier for the serologist.
And when you're participating in this process of packaging the dried stains, is it your practice to initial the coin envelopes?
Yes.
And is any other information placed on the coin envelopes?
The property number, which is usually different than the photo ID number, but not always.
Is any DR number placed on those?
Yes, the DR number for the case is placed on each envelope.
And based upon your training and your experience, is the coin envelope what is used in order to determine what case those stains came from and where they were found at the crime scene?
It contains the information necessary, yes.
I think that's all I have. Let me just check. You said that you generally initial the coin envelope?
At booking,
Yes.
it is initialed.
And do you have to initial the bindles necessarily?
No,
Overruled.
no, not necessarily the bindles.
But you do place generally the item number and then designate the difference between the control and the stain
Correct,
on the bindle?
correct.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right. 2 minutes or 10 minutes? Oh, I see, okay. Folks, we'll take about 10 minutes. All right, please remember all my admonitions to you. We're just going to recycle into recross. And just for your information, because of the lost time we had this morning, we're going to resume this afternoon at 1 o'clock rather than 1:30, so a little shorter lunch break today. All right, Ms. Mazzola, you can step down. 10 minutes.
So,
All right, thank you, counsel. All right, court's previous ruling stands. Let's have the jury. Record reflect, we've now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Ladies and gentlemen, if you recollect yesterday, Mr. Neufeld concluded his cross-examination pending permission from the court to reopen when certain items of evidence were delivered to the court. Those items have been received by the court, and I'm going to allow Mr. Neufeld to continue and conclude his cross-examination, including questioning as to these items. All right, Mr. Neufeld?
Your Honor, I believe I'll also be doing the recourse as well now, so it's all,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Ms. Mazzola, it's been brought to my attention that on occasion I may have mispronounced your name during the cross-examination because of my accent. And although I'm proud of my accent, and I'm sure you're proud of your accent, I meant no disrespect, and I hope you didn't take it that way.
No, I didn't take it that way.
Okay, fine. Then good morning and good morning. Ms. Mazzola, you said a little bit a while ago on redirect examination that Dennis Fung had directed you just to use a single swab on the gas pedal, the brake pedal, and the emergency brake when you got to the Bronco on the 14th. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you said he wanted you to use the same swab on all three because he just wanted to see whether or not they had been used at all, or blood had been in contact with them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, wouldn't it have been very important, Ms. Mazzola, if there was blood on only one pedal? Wouldn't that indicate that someone had climbed into the car as opposed to have driven the car?
Also speculation.
Sustain.
You can,
Sustain.
oh, I'm sorry.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, would you agree that to drive a car, one has to use both the brake and the gas pedal?
Argumentative.
Overruled.
Yes.
And would you agree that if you only saw some indicia of blood on, let's say, the emergency brake, but not on the accelerator nor the brake, that would be evidence that someone had not driven the car who had blood on the shoe, but rather someone may have climbed into the car and not driven it?
Argumentative and also
Well, it's still called is speculative, but the jury's smart enough to figure this out as they have all driven cars.
And by the way, Ms. Mazzola, you said that you didn't even see any red stains on any of those three items in the car, did you?
No, they were black. I did not see any red stains.
And Ms. Mazzola, you examined those items with that flashlight that you can see in the picture, didn't you?
Mr. Fung did, yes.
And Mr. Fung never said in your presence that he observed any stains on those three items, did he?
Sustain. It's hearsay.
Well,
Rephrase the question. Did Mr. Fung ever direct your attention to anything on the brake pedals?
No.
Proceed.
thank you. And in fact, neither you nor Mr. Fung that day collected any swatches from any of those three items, did you?
No, we did not.
And it's not because you were only looking for representative stains, because there were no other stains on any of those three items, were there?
I do not know if there were any stains present.
Well, you didn't see any stains, did you?
I personally did not, no.
And again, repeating his honest question to you, and I'm going to get it wrong, perhaps you could repeat your own question. Okay. Did Mr. Fung direct your attention to any stains at all on either of those three items?
Overruled.
No.
Thank you.
I liked it the first time, too. No, don't ask it again.
Just kidding.
Now, when you did the demo, the demonstration videotape, ma'am, you wanted to perform on that tape as well as possible, right?
Yes.
And you were told, in fact, that there was a chance that this tape might be played for the jury. You were told that too, weren't you?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
That there was a chance.
And when you did this, this demonstration, I mean, relative to an actual crime scene, it was under ideal conditions, wasn't it?
Not ideal, no.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, there were no bodies present, were there?
No.
There were no 20 or 25 police officers present, were there?
No,
There weren't a phalanx of journalists with TV cameras across the street, were there?
no,
And there were no time constraints, were there?
no.
And nonetheless, Ms. Mazzola, problems still arose during the course of making that video, didn't it?
Vaguest problems.
Overruled.
Problems such as the stains being a little difficult to remove, yes.
Other than the stain being difficult to remove, is it your opinion, ma'am, that no problems occurred or are visualized in that entire demonstration video?
Still vaguest problems.
Overruled.
I don't understand what you mean by problems.
Well, without telling us what was said, Ms. Mazzola, were any problems with what happened on that videotape called to your attention while you were there shooting it?
It's irrelevant, false hearsay.
Directly called to your attention.
Not that I can recall.
So as you sit here today, having seen this videotape now, both yesterday, or I'm sorry, the day before, and again today, it's your opinion that there were no mistakes made by you?
Still vaguest of mistakes.
Overruled.
None that I could really see, no.
Thank you. Yesterday, Ms. Mazzola, you said that you were not familiar with Mr. Simpson's name when you arrived at the scene on the 13th. Is that right?
That's correct.
But would it be fair to say that by the time you left Rockingham, late in the afternoon on the 13th, that it certainly came to your attention that he was a famous person?
I found out who he was, yes.
Well, not just who he was, but you found out that because of who he was, that this case was going to receive a great deal of attention.
I could tell that from the cameras already gathered at his house.
And even though you may not have thought about everything that happened on the 13th, the night of the 13th, certainly within the next couple of days, you were able to glean just from the vast media attention that this was going to be a case which was very high profile.
Yes, it was going to be high profile.
And in fact, ma'am, in the next few weeks, there was actually a hearing held in connection with that case, wasn't there?
Are we talking about in August?
No, was there a preliminary hearing held in late June that was televised?
Could have been.
And would you agree, ma'am, that throughout the month of June, the month of July, and the month of August, up until the time you testified on August 23rd, there was a tremendous amount of media attention to this case?
I guess it was on TV, yes.
And you realized during those 2.5 months, Ms. Mazzola, that you played a very significant role in this case, didn't you?
It's documented evidence to the restate.
Overruled. But we've sort of plowed this ground already.
2 more questions on this, Your Honor.
Please.
As I had said before, I didn't give it much thought about what was going on in the media.
Ms. Mazzola, you realized from the day you collected evidence in this case that there was going to come a time when you were going to have to testify about what you did, right?
Yes,
And with all that media attention that you were conscious of between June 13th and August 23rd, didn't you at any point during those 2 months, with this being in the newspapers, on television, and on the radio, at all review in your own mind what it is that you actually did on the 13th?
no,
You never reviewed it at all?
no.
Now, you also said that what helped you to remember better what actually happened on the 13th and 14th was when you look at photographs. Is that right?
Yes,
And I believe you said that, for instance, looking at the photograph of item number 47 refreshed your recollection about what happened. Is that correct? That was one of the examples used by Mr. Goldberg. Isn't that right?
I believe it was 47. I'm not
Well,
certain.
let me just show you the photograph of item item 47.
All right, and Mr. Douglas, this is People's Exhibit which?
Your Honor, this is number 165.
Thank you. Why don't you take the long pointer with you?
Yeah. Ms. Mazzola? I'm pointing to item 47, correct?
Correct.
And that's the photograph of item 47? Is that the photograph of item 47 that you looked at?
Assumes facts not in evidence, there's only one photograph.
Overruled.
I looked at several photographs of the scene.
Well, you said that you looked at a photograph of item 47. Did you not?
Yes.
Was this the photograph of item 47 that you looked at?
I do not believe this was the exact only photograph of item 47 that I looked at.
All right. What other photographs of item 47 did you look at to refresh your recollection?
Overall views of the scene, that's what helped most.
Well, ma'am, yesterday you said that specifically you recalled looking at a photograph of item 47 and that refreshing your recollection about what transpired on June 13th. I'm simply asking you whether or not this is the photograph you looked at of item 47, or was there another photograph of item 47 that you looked at?
Asked and answered.
Sustain.
Now your testimony that it wasn't a photograph of item 47 which refreshed your recollection, but instead other photographs of the scene.
Assumes facts not in evidence.
Sustain.
You may sit down. You would agree, Ms. Mazzola, that that photograph of item 47 is nothing more than a red stain on a piece of concrete or the ground cover, isn't that right?
Sustain.
Have you looked at any photograph at all, Ms. Mazzola, which shows anyone collecting item 47?
No,
Have you looked at any photograph which shows anyone kneeling down next to item 47?
no,
But it's your testimony that looking at photographs of item 47 refreshed your recollection about what happened, is that right?
yes,
And since photographs refresh your recollection, did you also look at photographs of the other items that were collected in this case at Bundy?
That's compound, this phrase.
Overruled.
I looked at several photographs, yes.
Did you look at photograph which reflected the location of item 50?
Which item is 50?
Item 50 would be photo identification 115. One of the blood drops taken from Bundy.
I looked at several photographs of the scene.
And were they photographs that depicted the location of the different blood drop stains at Bundy?
It showed their overall view, yes.
All right. Next in order, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Roberts. 1121. All right, appears to be a photograph of the rear stairway at
You rec-
Bundy.
Do you recognize the card that's sitting at the top of the stairs in front of the gate?
It appears to be one of ours.
And can you recognize what number it is on it?
115.
Okay. And 115 corresponds with item number 50, correct?
I'll take your word for it, yes.
Well, no, please check your notes.
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
And you were present when these photographs were taken, correct?
I was at Bundy, yes.
Well, didn't you testify on direct examination and on redirect examination that you and Dennis Fung together participated in setting up the photographing of the various items at Bundy?
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
Wasn't one of your responsibilities at Bundy to participate in the documenting of items of evidence?
Yes,
And part of the documenting of evidence entails the photographing of items, does it not?
yes,
And one of the things that you've been taught at the SID Mini Academy was to get various angles or various distances of the different items, correct?
the forensic photographers know that, yes.
To shoot it close up and to shoot it further away.
Correct.
And did you, with Dennis Fung, put down the various numbers along the way so the items could be photographed?
I helped put down some of them, yes.
Do you have an independent recollection as you sit here today as to which numbers you put down and which numbers he put down?
The ones I participated in were up near the front of the house in the area that the crime occurred.
Okay. But where 115 is in this picture, Ms. Mazzola, is actually where item 50 bloodstain is, isn't that correct?
Correct?
And you personally knelt down and collected that stain, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Mazzola, when you collected that stain, you were just a few feet in front of that rear gate, weren't you? Would you back up so that we can see the gate? Weren't you?
It appears that 115 is near the gate, yes.
And you have to pass through that gate to get to 117, which became item 52, don't you?
Yes.
Well, if seeing photographs refresh your recollection, Ms. Mazzola, when you were shown this photograph, when you looked at the different photographs of the scene of Bundy before taking the witness stand, did that refresh your recollection that there was in fact a rear gate located there?
The photographs show that, yes, there was a rear gate.
Well, did seeing that photograph refresh your recollection even before you took the witness stand in this case that there was a rear gate at that location?
That morning, I did not recall seeing a back gate.
Ms. Mazzola, when you say that morning, you mean the morning of June 13th?
Correct.
When you say you didn't recall seeing a gate on June 13th, are you saying that at a certain point in time, when I thought back to June 13th, I don't recall seeing a gate? Is that what you mean by that statement?
Well, states the testimony as to gate, it's a rear gate.
That morning, I did not remember seeing a back gate. After seeing photographs, apparently there is a back gate.
Right. Ms. Mazzola, when was the first time that somebody asked you about a back gate?
I don't remember the exact date,
The month,
not even the month.
the season.
I can't even remember.
Well, was it several months after you were out there in June? More or less.
It was after we had been out there in June.
Well, when you say after, was it the next day?
No.
Okay, so it was many weeks later?
I think we've given the jury a picture of what the state of the recollection is.
Huh. And when you say you didn't recall seeing a back gate there, do you mean that at that first time, sometime after June 13th, when someone asked you about a back gate, in that conversation, you didn't recall a back gate? Is that what you're saying, ma'am?
Yes, I did not remember seeing a back gate.
Okay. And then, subsequent to that first conversation you had with someone when they asked you about a back gate and you said, no, I don't recall one, were you then shown photographs prior to taking the witness stand at this trial where you actually saw the back gate?
I saw photographs, yes.
And did those photographs include a photograph of this back gate, Ms. Mazzola?
Yes.
And so before you took the witness stand in this case, Ms. Mazzola, did seeing that photograph of the back gate refresh your recollection that there was a back gate there on June 13th?
I still say on June 13th, I did not remember seeing a back gate.
Ms. Mazzola, you've testified before this jury that there were some things you don't remember, but when you finally see photographs of them, you then begin to have your recollection refreshed. Is that correct?
On some things, yes.
Is there any other item, by the way, Ms. Mazzola, where you've seen a photograph of it since, where nonetheless it's your recollection that an object didn't exist the way you saw it on June 13th?
This time I had checked under 352.
Well, the question's vague.
Now, Ms. Mazzola, you've testified, I believe yesterday, that you first realized that the blood vial had been carried in the black trash bag in the morning of June 14th when you arrived at the evidence processing unit. Is that correct?
I had seen it in the